if you don't feel like you're in the right profession, that's fine, because you're in a great spot to do many other things. The people that we really end up working a lot with are the people that they really want to be a clinician. They want to be a really good clinician, and they want to put their skills to the test, right? Like they really want to see what they're capable of, and they get very frustrated if they can't get somebody better. They're the kind of people that if they can't get somebody better, it ruins their weekend, and they're diving into like learning things that they just feel like there's a hole in their game, like they're missing something. It's not just a job. It's literally the thing that they take a lot of pride in and they want to be really good at.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Performance Rehab Authority podcast. We've got Doc Danny here, who is the original founder of Athletes Potential, a cash practice in Atlanta, Georgia, and then also the founder of PT Biz, Physical Therapy Biz, a coaching mastermind group for performance-minded, cash-based physical therapy practices that really want to work with athletes in active adults. And he's helped not only myself and Caitlin, but also multiple thousand at this point clinicians kind of start and grow practices.
Yeah, something like that. Like definitely within like direct contact, work with people within our programs. Over 1,000, which is pretty crazy to think about. It's a lot of people that are doing their own thing now.
If you guys don't know, Danny is a mentor of mine, a friend, and actually Caitlin and I met through PT Biz and started our relationship because of PT Biz. So welcome to the podcast, Danny. Start with hopping in and talking about what's fucked up in our industry, right? Like the massive problem that we have, where we're seeing this mass exodus of clinicians from field in general, and then so many people that are burnt out in the insurance world. So I guess I'm kind of curious, what are the common struggles that you guys are hearing these days from people that are just done with the insurance world and interested in getting into the cash world?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones is volume, right? That's nothing new, but I feel like it's every year it just slightly gets worse. It is an increased amount of volume necessary when we see decreased reimbursements on the insurance side. Historically, at least the last 10 years, whenever I started my practice in 2014, it's trended that direction. It's trended that direction before that too. So if you're an in-network practice and you have to have certain amount of revenue that comes from people seeing visits, then you're going to end up having to see more visits. And I totally understand from the business owner side why that is the case. It's like, you want to stay in business, you want to have a viable business, so you have to create revenue through more volume. The challenge with that is it is very difficult to see high volume. It's not that more difficult from a challenging sort of like figuring out what's wrong with somebody, helping them get results than the cash world is. It's more intensity of documentation and people, right? So in the cash world, it's less people, but it's more intense conversations and less documentation. If you want to be a really good provider, we see people moving more towards the sort of cash world because they can focus more on one person. They want that. And then sometimes, and I would say there's a chunk of our profession that doesn't want that. They want to go to a job and go home, and it's not their life. It's just what they do for a living. And, and that's fine too. Like, not everybody is going to try to be the best in the world at being a physical therapist. But the people that do want to do that get really frustrated in a high volume environment because they can't really use their skill set the way they want. And those are the people that we see that really tend to move over more into a low volume setting. The other group of people that I would say is leaving the profession is just moving into something completely different, right? Like that, they might be moving into something different because they want a different sort of lifestyle. Maybe they want more of a remote lifestyle, which is very hard to do when you're face to face with people and you have a schedule that is demanding. It's not as flexible with your life. It's healthcare in general. Like, we understand that when we get into it, it's just part of the job. But there's people that are just leaving and going into a non-clinical role. And many people are tech companies, sales. You can take the skill set of a PT and actually apply it quite well in many other professions. And, it transfers really, really well. So if that group for them, at least they can look at their investment in PT. I don't think it's a waste. I think it's actually a really strong foundation for many other things. But maybe they just get to where they're going in a bit of a roundabout way with a lot of student loans, which maybe is the biggest, sort of challenge as far as that goes.
Just $200,000 roundabout way to get there. No, that's a good point. You see a lot of people getting into like medical device sales, but I hadn't really thought too much about like the tech aspect, which is kind of funny because now that I think about it, now that you mentioned it, like, there are a lot of people that are out there that have gone from, PT to helping with digital marketing and advertising and app development and all these different things. And PT was the foundation. I mean, some of them, never even finished passing the port exams and have moved on into doing these things because they're like, oh, this is great. I like helping, but I'm going to take this a different direction. And I think that's an interesting point that you made about the intensiveness of the conversations in the cash setting, right? Like, that's something that not a lot of people talk about. Yes, in network, I was seeing 4 people an hour every hour on the hour, right? It was crazy. But I put a lot of effort into the people that I see one-on-one. Like, we do have very in-depth personal conversations, and there's a lot of education in you do build a relationship and you get to know somebody on another level that can also be a bit exhausting.
Yeah. For sure.
Like
and I think it's demanding from your attention. Like, you have to be more focused in that environment. You can't just mail it in, and it's just, you can't put somebody on a recumbent bike for 15 minutes and then just go and, take a little break or something. Like, that's not just how it works. So it is more demanding there. And I think I see burnout within the low volume sort of cash world as well. And it's usually from people that they don't really expect that type of a intensity of conversation and relationship is what was going to happen, right? Like, I think most people don't even know what it feels like to like really carry an hour with somebody if you're going to work with them, and then do that for like 6 to 7 sessions in a day. It's pretty exhausting, especially some people are really, kind of more empathic. They really feel what other people feel, a much more extreme level. And for them, it's even harder, right? Like, they just really, they get very drained and they need some time alone. And you got to keep in mind, most people are moving into our profession, or really any profession, and you're, in your early 20s when you're deciding what school you want to specialize in. You may not know too much about yourself or have much life experience to begin with, right? So it's not just our profession where we see people change to go other directions. We see it all the time. I see people from law school do the same thing. They take their law degree and then they move and they do something else because, traditionally lawyers get crushed with work and long hours, and maybe they don't get much fulfillment from what they're doing, and then move on to something else. But having that JD degree really puts them in a strong place to do many other things and understand contracts and business and things like that. Whereas I see on the PT side, if somebody wants to go and do something else, like a clear example of this would be something like client success. So when I talked to Heidi Jananga, who founded Web PT, we had a conversation about non-clinical PTs that they hire. They hire a lot of physical therapists, actually. And one of the primary roles is for client success, because if you think about what somebody needs in client success, they need to be active, listener. They need to be a good problem solver, document well with what's going on, understand sort of, how to maybe manage multiple things at once, and a customer life cycle. And if you really think about what a physical therapist does, I mean, it's that in a nutshell, but with an injury versus with, somebody actively using software the way that you want them to. So you're just applying that skill set to a different set of problems. So I'm not saying that you should just flee from the profession and go and do something else. But what I'm saying is, if you don't feel like you're in the right profession, that's fine, because you're in a great spot to do many other things. The people that we really end up working a lot with are the people that they really want to be a clinician. They want to be a really good clinician, and they want to put their skills to the test, right? Like, they really want to see what they're capable of, and they get very frustrated if they can't get somebody better. They're the kind of people that if they can't get somebody better, it ruins their weekend, and they're diving into like learning things that they just feel like there's a hole in their game, like they're missing something. And it's not just a job. It's literally the thing that they take a lot of pride in and they want to be really good at. Those are the folks that we see that are really moving away from high volume, that want to go into lower volume. And whether that be working for somebody else, which is totally fine too. There's great clinics that are cash-based clinics, and you don't have to learn how to be a business owner. Or if you decide you want to do your own thing and you want to learn how to, start a clinic, either way, you're going to move into a position where you can work with people more one-on-one, because it's what gives you the opportunity to see if you really are good at what you do. And there's a lot of people that want that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Caitlin and I talk about this fairly frequently, is that like in the insurance world, your outcomes don't matter. Like, you're not,
really?
You're not judged by your outcomes. Like, at no point did anybody like stop and assess if I was getting my patients better. I was crushing outcomes, and then I got in trouble because I wasn't seeing them for enough visits. So I got reprimanded, right, for going out and getting a good skill set and getting people better faster, because the company was volume driven and didn't want to lose revenue. So I was supposed to see, like, I actually did not get bonuses because I didn't see enough visits per patient.
Right.
Even though I had a bunch of Google reviews and I was driving word of mouth referrals because of the outcomes I was getting. So that is a totally different way of looking at it. So then that brings up, all the people now that are going to PT school with the intention of immediately opening a business, right? Because I do believe that you need to be good at what you do if you want to charge a premium for it, right? But it puts people in a weird struggle where now they have to try to figure out how to be a good clinician and also how to be a business owner at the same time. So what advice would you give to the people that are in PT school right now that are thinking about when they get out of school, going right into open cash practice?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think from what I've seen, the success rate of people that start right after school is lower compared to people that are 3 to 5 years out from graduating. And so, I mean, we work with people that are 20 years, out from graduating from PT school that are starting their own thing. But I think that the way that I would say that it would work if you're a student is if you have a pre-existing sort of knowledge base in some sort of niche that you can carry over with you that allows you to offset some of the deficiencies you're going to have on the clinical side. So let's say that you're like, you were a competitive runner, you've been working with runners as a coach, as you've gone through school and PT school, and it's something you have a really strong depth of knowledge in, but maybe your clinical skill set isn't all that great just yet because you just got into the profession. In that scenario, we'll see people that can make it work there. But if you really are just a generalist and you don't have a defined niche, you just don't want to work at a high volume clinic, or you don't want to work for somebody else in general, maybe that's just your goal. I think you're better off to take some time to really find a place where you can get reps, ideally mentorship, and then invest in yourself on the clinical education side first to be able to put yourself in a place where you feel very confident and competent when somebody walks in, that you can really do a good job with them, because the reputation you have with your clinic and how you work with people, the outcomes that you get, the way client success side of it, the way they feel, like these are all sort of like things that you need to learn. That we just assume you're a good clinician. Like we check the box on the fact that like you're competent enough to go do your own thing. Cool. Now you can layer on business on top of that. But if you're trying to learn how to run a business and learn how to become a good clinician at the same time, that would be very hard. And I can tell you, for me, like my school was very different. They squish all of our didactic down into 14 months. And then for the next 14 months, our school is 28 months long, you would do 14 months in a clinic. So I actually spent a year in an ortho clinic before I even went to my first assignment. So before I even passed my boards, I'd already spent a year seeing high volume at a clinic in Texas. And even with that, I didn't even feel like I was competent at what I was doing until I was probably like 4 to 5 years out, right? Like, and that's right about when I started my practice, was around that time, roughly five years out. So I would have had a very hard time a year right when I graduated, or a year out. I mean, dude, I would have felt just like so much stress around like trying to find understanding how to learn both at the same time, that I just don't think it's worth it. I think you're better off to be patient. Like, wait, you just spent 7 years getting your degree. Like, take an extra 2 to get a little bit better, or a lot better actually in most cases, at what you're doing. Make your mistakes somewhere else. And then, go into your own thing and get a better idea of who you want to work with and who you really enjoy working with, because oftentimes we don't know until we get some reps. And I think working for another low volume practice is a great way to really get mentorship, to really, learn how to work with people in that manner. And you also might find out that you really just like working at a clinic like that, and you don't want to do your own thing, because there's a lot of pros and cons to that, right? I mean, it's not for everybody. And I don't know. People like myself put a lot of information out. There's a lot of information out there, but some people don't talk about the negative side of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just want to sell people on the idea of they should start their own practice, it's not a hard thing to do. I can get people really aggravated about the negative side of, working for somebody else. But what you don't see is the constant stress, the failures that happen, the long hours, the poor life balance, the health issues associated with it, the relationship challenges that occur when you're trying to manage all that stuff. And like, people don't want to talk about that because they're trying to sell you into a fucking program, right? The reality is that's what actually happens. So you really got to want to do it, and it's really hard to do it and learn how to be a good clinician at the same time. I just think it's a big challenge for people that want to do that. They're better off to wait a little bit.
Yeah, there's so many nuggets in that right now. And even just like the relationship aspect of it, right? Like, yeah, even when you get help, you have that. It's like starting a business is a lot of work and it's hard and it takes hours, you know? And it's like your amount of success is directly correlated to the volume of work that you put in. And, you know, you'll see this, I'm sure, with practices that are getting started that, you know, some people have a side hustle where they're putting, you know, 5 to 10 hours a week into it. It probably takes them a lot longer to grow than the person that's able to put 40, 50, 60 hours a week just because of the volume game. It's reps, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, with the Con Ed that we do, that's something that we've seen a lot of is in the sales and marketing, right? So business owners, because we work with a fair number of business owners as well, they love to go down like the sales and the marketing rabbit hole. Like, hey, my sales aren't where they need to be, my package conversion, my client retention. And then it's like they go down the rabbit hole, maybe as a newer grad, of like trying to get all the systems. And sometimes you got to take a step back and look and say, hey, is the product that I'm selling like that good, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's it. I don't have a question there.
I'll agree with you. Let me chime in on that in terms of, so we've seen this now both clinically in our own practices. We've seen it with, you know, selling when you were working with PT Biz, you know, and you're the first person that we brought onto the sales team there. And, you know, it was you and I talked to a lot of people that were potentially like thinking about working with us as we've, you know, expanded past that. I don't do too many of those conversations anymore, but every once in a while when I do, it's different in terms of like the conviction that someone has in what you're selling really is, in my opinion, the most important thing that you can bring to the table. Like you can have no sales script whatsoever, no understanding of psychology of how that works, of how to frame things, and like all these cool things we learned about sales, but you could have extreme conviction in the fact that you can help this person and they can feel that. And that's 80% of whether they're going to want to work with you or not. So if there's doubt in your mind for whether you can help somebody get the outcome that they want, it's not you feeling that only, it's the other person is feeling that as well. Because your tone will change, your body language will change, your pacing will change, you know, your eye contact, the confidence that you carry. And unless you can trick yourself into believing that you have enough conviction to get that person better, which can happen as well, and takes a lot of training for somebody to really like make themselves feel convicted when maybe they're not. The easier route to go is to have an amazing product that you literally are like, this is an absolute steal that we give this away for the price point that we're charging because I'm going to literally change your life and get you back to X, Y, and Z that you want to do. And I've helped hundreds of people do the same thing. So you're in the right spot. You want to get started, right? Like that is different than me taking somebody through checklist of whatever it might be, you know. And on the business side now, like if I talk to somebody and they're a, you know, performance-based cash practice owner, they are a good clinician, they don't have any sort of business experience. Like our track record is so strong that it's almost like hard for me to not believe that we could help them. Like I would need a serious reason to know, like if you don't want to help yourself, then I can't do anything for you. But if you actually want to, you know, build a business like you're telling me that you want to, like, yeah, we've now done this over 1,000 times. Like, you know, you're not a unique snowflake. You need to do these certain things. I don't care what your area is. I don't care how big or small your town is. We've done it everywhere, you know, and as long as you're willing to put the work in, we're willing to help you out. And our track record is really strong, you know, and that's just like being honest with somebody with conviction about what you're doing. So if you don't feel strong about your clinical skill set, that's the very first place that you got to start because you can't hide it. And also it's super hard to market something that has bad outcomes. You know, like, because no one is out in the community telling other people about what you're doing. So you're doing all the legwork yourself, and you don't have this small army of people that's growing that are advocates for your brand that develop when you actually deliver a good service and or product, right? So that's where it starts. But if you can do both, and this is where we see people have exponential growth. They're a good clinician, and then they bolt on proven business systems, and they start to actually work on the areas that they're deficient in to lead to the goal that they want. I mean, that's the goal. That is the dream as far as somebody for me to work with, you know, because we know that they can scale to whatever it is they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that it just makes sense, you know, and I've seen it, like you're saying, the other way around. People they've got a great clinical skill set, but they like the sales, the talking about money, all that stuff makes them uncomfortable because as clinicians, we don't ever deal with that, right? So it's like they're very convicted, and then when they start talking about the money aspect, then they get weird, they get fidgety, and like they give a sense of something's wrong and their tone changes, you know, and I did that right before you guys helped me out with that. I would be like, hey, I started off at 175, right? Now we're charging a lot more than that, but I'm like, it's 175, but you're going to get all these things. Here's all the benefits and features, and throw it all out there. And people are like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go think about this now, because I just made it weird. Instead of now, it's like, hey, this is the plan. This is what it costs, right? Oh, really? This is the plan. Sound like a good plan? Cool. This is what it costs.
Yeah.
And then I just shut up.
Well, you know, and I think what you bring up is a very common problem that almost everybody that I've ever worked with, including myself, like has had to deal with, which is for your comfort level with money and having discussions with people for what your service costs when it's something that you enjoy so much that you would probably do it for free anyway. You know, like the personal satisfaction that we get. It's very rare to have a profession where you have so much personal reward assigned to what you do, to where you literally get to see somebody in front of you, develop a relationship with somebody where you're helping them achieve these things that are obviously like very, they're problematic for them. They're causing stress in their life. They're causing them to avoid activities they enjoy with people they enjoy doing them with. And they're stressed about it. They're worried, is this the decline? Is this where it's starting? I'm never going to be able to do this again. Or all these things that people think. And all of a sudden we can put them back in a place where they have the question of, well, what do you want to do now, right? Like you can change the script on them from, do you think I'll ever be able to run again, to what race do you want to do? You know, like where do you want to visit to run the next half marathon? Like that is a life change for people that we take for granted because we do it all the time. But to them, it's a massive difference maker. So, but when we look at what we do, we like it so much, we would do it for free, and we don't assign as much value to it as other people do. And if you also come from a background where you're not coming from a family where they talked about money or had some sort of, you know, positive relationship with money, which is almost nobody, you know, like almost everybody I ever talked to is middle or below, you know, class, or even if they grew up in a nice, like a wealthy family, they didn't talk about money because they thought it was a bad idea. It was a negative thing to talk about. Like you just didn't do it. And so they don't have any relationship with money. Now, all of a sudden you have to talk to somebody about giving you $2,000 to solve this problem, and you get squirrely with it, right? That's normal. But that makes the other person feel really sketchy because they think that you're doing something wrong, even though you're not. You just feel uncomfortable with it, right? So that's a huge barrier that a lot of people have to deal with. You know, and the money mindset side of things, that's enough to stop most people from even being able to like get past a side hustle. Like if they don't really work on that, which can be very hard depending on your background, it'll stop you in your tracks.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when we first met, I was living in my parents' unfinished basement with my kids, right? Like I had terrible money mindset issues. Getting around people that have a different mindset, I think is huge, right? Like that was one of the biggest things that I really enjoyed about working with you guys for so many years, is like just being around a group of badass people that are doing big things and taking the limiters off their thought process, you know? Like, so let's talk about this, because I think clinicians are a lot more apt to invest in clinical skill set than a business skill set, right? Which has never made any sense to me. It was easy, right, for me to sell PT Biz because you guys changed my life, and I saw you guys change so many other lives as I was there as a part of it. But that's the one thing that came up so often is like, I will invest heavily in clinical mentorship, but business, this thing that's going to completely change the rest of the trajectory of my life and my family's lives, either like make or break it, I think I'm going to figure it out on my own. So talking about the mindset that people have and how they can maybe start to look at that a little bit differently.
Well, I think in our profession, it's normal to look for mentorship, to assign, you know, money every year to CEUs, to clinical rotation, or to residencies, to fellowships, you know, all of the things that get you more letters behind your name. Like we assign a lot of value to those, even though, frankly, insurance as a payer does not. Like if you're a FAOMT or if you are a day one new grad, you're reimbursed the exact same. So if you want to know what the economy assigns value to, it's not your education level. I'm not saying it's not valuable. I think it very much is. But I think there's a diminishing rate of return at a certain point for, you know, how the world views it and what you're able to charge. You know, like I didn't go through a fellowship, but it's not like I couldn't charge per hour, per package or whatever, what somebody, could do as well. It really just depends on, what you learn outside of that. Maybe not as strict of an environment, as structured environment. But assigning value to clinical education is something that's very normal for us and something that, it's indoctrinated in us. Like we paid a lot of money to go to school, and then we're lifelong learners. We're constantly learning. We want to invest in that. I think the challenge on the business side is you don't know what you don't know. That is the challenge. Like you don't know that you're basically running a terrible business. You don't know that you're charging far less than you should. You don't know that you shouldn't create compensation models that way. You don't know that your admin shouldn't be doing these things or should be doing these things. You don't know what size space you should have. You don't know how you set up hours. You don't know what insurance you need or you don't need. You don't know anything about taxes. You don't know anything about like entity structures. And honestly, all of these things are creating the vehicle that's going to support your family. And I made the same mistake. I didn't actually spend any time or money on business education aside from like listening to podcasts the first 1.5 to 2 years that I got out of the military to learn how to be a better business owner. I had to actually learn it the hard way and really like put my business in a terrible position and stress my family out a whole lot before I realized I just was like creating a very unsafe. I was dangerous to my own like success that I'd had at the time, mainly because I was a good clinician and I gave a fuck about people. Like that got me to a point where I could replace my income as a captain in the Army when I left the military, right? After that, it wasn't just that, it was like people, it was systems, it was, more sophisticated marketing and understanding what do you do with the cash that you generate? Like how do you grow a business? So I think the reason people don't value it is because they don't even know that they need it. And usually, and I wish it wasn't this way, most people have to learn that lesson the hard way. And it's kind of nice when they do, honestly, because for us, it makes my job much easier because you're much more likely to listen. You want to actually implement these things that have been tested. You're not trying to figure out your own. And I kind of liken it to like climbing a mountain, right? Like you can go and climb a mountain if you want to climb a mountain by yourself. You can do it. You might make it to the top. Maybe you don't, but there's a likelihood of success and a likelihood of failure. So if we look at that, let's say you want to climb the top of this mountain, you could also do it with a guide. It's going to cost you some money, but like, what's the level of certainty that you're going to get there with somebody that's already done it, that's a professional at that? They're going to help you get up there, get back down, achieve your goal, or do it by yourself and maybe you either fail or maybe something terrible happens, But if the goal is to get to the top, which one do you want to pick? That's basically what people have to decide is, do you want to do this with a guide so you don't screw up and die? And the likelihood of achieving is very high, or do you want to do it on your own? And, some people want to do it on their own and some people want to make sure that they get there. And I think that when it comes down to what you're providing your family, as far as their life is concerned, money is what everything is run off of. So we need to make money in our businesses to pay our mortgage, to buy groceries, all that. I always wonder, and looking back, I was an idiot. Like, why would I put myself in such a bad position knowing nothing? And the answer really comes down to is my ego. I thought that if I got help from somebody else, then I didn't do it by myself, right? Like, as silly as that sounds, that's the way I viewed it. It's like, well, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want anybody else's ideas. I'm figuring shit out on my own. This is what I'm going to do. And that is such a strong ego, issue associated with where I was at. And the only way I was going to change was literally to lose like $100,000 over the course of a few months in a terrible build out gone wrong, terrible hiring, staffing, turnover issues, and put myself in a place where, like, I remember sitting on a couch with my wife looking at our bank account and we had like less than a month's worth of payroll left and we're gonna have to put on a credit card if we didn't get shit turned around. And that's when I realized, oh fuck, you suck at this. Like, you need to get some help. So if you need to go through that to get to that point, that's fine. But if you can hear me talk, it might save you some stress and some money along the way.
You definitely, definitely will, because it, like you're saying, you could maybe be successful, right? It's like if you have a guy that's done this trip 100 times, 1,000 times, like they know exactly where to step, where not to step, where to go, where not to go. And even, with a lot of guidance building the business, I look back at the things that I've done, the decisions that I've made, and I'm like, now knowing what I know later, I'm like, wow, you're stupid when you first started, but I did the same thing, because I started off way back when like the Blueprint, right, was a standalone thing, and then in the Rainmaker, the Mastermind. And I remember sitting there thinking, I got to pay this guy this money, and maybe I should just figure it out on my own. And I had other people tell me, like, you don't want to just try it for 6 months and see. And, if it's not going so well, then maybe you can get that and get some help. And it's like, well, what are your metrics of success, right? Not only do you not know what you don't know, like that's one of the things you don't know. You don't know what success is. Some people have been in business for 3 years and they're like, I'm making $6,000 a month. I'm pretty successful. And I'm like, dude, I've seen practices make $6,000 their first couple of weeks open.
Yeah.
So like just having that measuring stick and a metric to measure by, I think is huge as well.
Yeah. And I would tell you, I think the other thing too, that I didn't expect, I'm not a very extroverted individual. Like I enjoy like one-on-one conversations with people, but I'm not like a group person. I don't really enjoy big groups of people. I'm not super extroverted. I don't get a lot of energy from that. And ironically, we have like a large group of people that gets together a couple times a year with, PT Biz live events that we do, right? So for me to be in a room of 200 to 250 people, that is a challenging thing for me. But I thought what people needed was just information and accountability. They needed the right information at the right time, and they needed accountability to make sure that they actually followed through with it. And I didn't really view it any different than what we did with people from a PT standpoint, right? Like if I was training somebody, then they need to have the right things, the right time, the right progressions or regressions, accountability where they're coming back in to see me to make sure they were doing what they were going to do, and skin in the game. Because when you pay for something, you're much more likely to actually follow through on things, especially if they're hard. And we know business is really, really hard. So, I thought that's all that we needed to do was just, give them the information, accountability. And what I realized after we started to get people together to work, that there was a big missing area of community that I didn't even think that it would be important. I didn't know. And what you brought up with understanding like what's possible, like your money mindset issues, it can be broken by one conversation with somebody at an in-person event that's literally in a town similar size to you, but it's charging like $100 more. And all of a sudden you've like made a year's worth of progress in like a 10-minute conversation. Or, just like the camaraderie of going through something challenging together is very similar to like the military. And that always surprised me. And I think that group environment is it's so valuable to be able to show you what's possible, to be around people that are just like you, that are doing things that you didn't think that you could do with your business. Or maybe it's not even your business. Maybe you have this idea that if you're running a business, you have to sacrifice all this time and your health and your relationships just to have success in this area because it takes so much effort. Then you meet somebody who's, happily married, healthy, successful in business, and generally a happy person. And you don't think that those things are supposed to go together, but yet all of a sudden here they are. And now your view of what's possible is totally changed. So like the in-person side, the community side, it's so valuable because you don't know who you're going to talk to. You don't know what they're going to say or what you're going to say or what the conversation is going to be. All you know is it's the people that you want to be similar to that are there that you're going to get a chance to learn from. And you get these false beliefs of what you think is possible in many different levels broken just by being in a room, for a short period of time with the right folks.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. Just getting around the right people is huge. That's why I like going to just events anyways. Like I just go to fitness conference events because I think those are a lot more my style than a lot of PT events.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like just getting around and seeing what people are doing like in the strength conditioning world, like the things that they're charging and building and doing, which is significantly more than what a lot of cash PTs believe is possible. And not to degrade like a strength and conditioning skill set at all. I think it's extremely important. I think that's what separates a lot of the PTs that are doing things really well. Like you were saying, having a specific like coaching background to be able to get in and niche down on, but they don't have the higher level education of a physical therapist, right? It's like not as specialized, and they're able to niche down and charge more and do this stuff with confidence where, other people are saying that it's not possible. So I just like getting around the people that have the big ideas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the overlap is interesting because we have people there would be more like training, conditioning, fitness realm that we, that learn stuff from us and we learn stuff from them. And it's, there's a lot of overlap, there's just slight differences in terms of, how we work with people, the demographics of who we work with, the continuum of health and where we fall in line with that, right? But I think all industries you can learn a lot from. I mean, I agree with you. I think any in-person time, as long as it is at least somewhat adjacent to like what you're doing, you can definitely learn a lot. And on the fitness side, the difference though, I think is, I don't think on the fitness side, people are quite as risk averse and they don't overthink things as much as our profession does. I find our profession to be highly risk averse individuals that in most cases, there's a small subset of people that want to be an entrepreneur, but most of us do not. And we find ourselves going that direction via, not a whole lot of other options. So reluctantly, they move that direction versus, I was a personal trainer for years when I was in college. I worked my way through school and, they're very entrepreneurial. Very, very entrepreneurial, because in a lot of ways you eat what you kill in those models. So they breed that. Like it's a big part of it. Our profession is not like that. Our profession is the opposite almost. So, it's cool to learn from them because they're very cavalier about many things and we're very conservative.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So somebody comes off the street. They're a PT with an insurance job and they just ask, Danny, what does it take to be like the highest version of myself and become a badass, like performance, high level cash physical therapist, like business owner? In a nutshell, what would you tell them?
Well, I think number one, they need to be a great clinician, really have a passion for wanting to help people achieve the results they want. Like they can't just mail it in. That's number one. Yeah, I can't do anything with anybody that doesn't feel like that's like that is their career. It's not their job. It's their career. It's their passion. So if that's the case, then cool. The next thing is they need to really invest in themselves to learn how to become a good business owner. Because I think of it, we should talk to people about this, when we have conversations, and I always ask people questions on a 0 to 10 scale, because that's what we do with the PT. Like I didn't know any different, right? So like if somebody was on a 0 to 10 as far as a clinician is concerned, if somebody's like a solid 7, 8, 9, I've never really heard anybody say 10, which is good because I don't think that's possible, but a lot of 7, 8s and 9s. And then we ask them, well, like, how do you feel on the business side, right? On a 0 to 10, if you had to rate your skill set as a business owner, sales, marketing, people, processes, finance, all that, most people are like a 2, if that. So if we look at the limiting factor, that's going to be it for most folks, right? So them understanding how to actually build that up to where it is a similar, equivalent as far as, that same scale is concerned is really big. And, then from there, they have to really commit to wanting to take the skill set that they learned, becoming a great clinician, and redirect it to become a great business owner. And it's already there. They already know how to learn. They already know how to pick up skills and apply those in real time. So they can do it. They just have to become fascinated with the game of business the way that they did when they became fascinated with the game of, the human body, and how to work with that. So, for me, that's really like the biggest things. And then all the details of what people will do on top of that, that obviously falls underneath it. But if those things are not in place, they're not willing to really turn their attention to become amazing at this. You can't try to become like a decent business owner and build a great business. It just doesn't work that way. And the challenge that we see for a lot of people is they do have to allocate time and resources, and they become slightly, less good at as a physical therapist. And you can't be the world's greatest physical therapist and the world's greatest physical therapy business owner at the same time. It just doesn't work, and what you want to do if you want to grow a really good business is you want to become a great business owner and continue to hire the world's greatest physical therapists. And build a team of those so you can really expand how many people you can help. So anyway, that's sort of my general, advice for where I would want somebody to be, and also for them to think about, like, you can't be great at everything. You have to decide what you want to do. If you want to be the greatest PT in the world, find a great clinic that's going to tee you up and let you use your skill set the way it deserves. Like there's plenty of people that should do that as well.
So I totally neglected on your intro to talk about your book. I was going to ask you what book you recommended for people or books, but you guys, if you haven't read Danny's book, it started out as Fuck Insurance, and now there's a second version that is the Cash Practice Field Manual, right? That's what's the correct title of it? That's
right, yeah. And you can still, like, if you want to buy Fuck Insurance, it's on Amazon. It is very hard to, in retrospect, put any sort of book up that has a curse word on it, especially from when I wrote it like 5 years ago to now. So we updated it. We changed the title of it, mainly so that we could actually, like, not get every single ad we have taken down. But if you want to get the OG version with a curse word on it, like go for it. It's on Amazon. But I think that's a very specific book to these type of businesses. I didn't write it as a marketing tool. I literally wrote it as I'm not an author by trade. I don't know anything differently than like teaching people how to do things, whether it be movement or it's business. So that book is literally like 100% tactical. Here's what you need to do at different stages. So if you're just getting started, it's a really simple place to start, I would say. And then if you're looking at other books, like I've got so many books, and I don't read all of them. I read at least 25% of all of them, so me finishing a book is quite rare, but there's a couple that I think are just really an easy place to start as well. If you're a newer business owner, one of those being probably my favorite entrepreneurial book is called The E-Myth. Michael Gerber is the author. It's sort of like it's a story framework. So it's a little easier to digest. It's not as tactical, but it's a great book. And so I would say, if you want to like just tactically, just these types of practices, then the book that I wrote, I think probably gives you the best information that you need for that. If you want to have sort of like general understanding of business and what to be aware of and sort of like the way the game is played, I think E-Myth is probably the best entrepreneur book that's been written.
Dope. All right. So then where can people follow you? And if they are interested in learning more about PT Biz, where do they go for that?
Yeah, I would say a couple places. So we've been doing a lot more YouTube content in terms of going to other like practices that we work with to really show like what these spaces look like, and so people can get a better idea of like what's actually going on within this, cash-based sort of especially performance world. And so our YouTube channels is PT Biz. We have a couple of those coming out each month. And then on Instagram, it's just at PT Biz. We have a ton of content that we put out, every single week. And if you're interested about any of that, I would just follow those channels. And if you like podcasts like this, my podcast is the PT Entrepreneur Podcast. It's pretty easy to find wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can listen to that. We do 2 a week, and I've been doing 2 a week now. I think we're on number 700 or somewhere around there. There's a lot. If you want to learn anything about that, you have about 700 podcasts you can listen to if you want to, spend some time learning about these types of businesses.
It's great use of your time driving back and forth to work.
Sure.
Turn your car into a classroom. That's what I did when I first stumbled upon your podcast. But either way, Danny, thanks for joining us. And yeah.